Hi, before we get started with the episode, we just wanted to point you in the direction of the social accounts we've set up for the show to help you guys engage with us and communicate and get involved with our show.
You can email us at can'tdisappointpodcast@gmail.com.
Emailing us will really be the best way to talk to us directly and conversate with us on air during the show.
Also, be sure to like You Can't Disappoint a Podcast on Facebook.
And you can also follow us on Instagram at Can't Disappoint Podcast and Twitter at You Can't Disapod. That's disapod like disappoint. So there's one S and two P's. Well, thanks for tuning in, and let's kick off the episode.
Here we go.
You know what? Totally wrong room. Will you get the door?
She's had enough!
Attention passengers, we now begin our descent into You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. Thank you for flying Air Steven. Have a lovely day.
Hello, and welcome to You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. I'm one of your two people that talks to you on the show. I'm Steven. Hello.
I'm Zach, and you know what? I'll say what Pierce and Jeff weren't willing to. I like Glee, and I get the appeal.
I like Glee for the first however many episodes that I enjoyed it.
You know, Steven, that wasn't the worst thing you could have ever done, that intro right there.
Thanks. I could have done much worse.
It wasn't
right?
the worst thing. You've done much worse.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another week of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. We're glad to be back. I think last week was a really good week, so I'm feeling a high from that, maybe just a little bit. So thanks for tagging along. I hope you didn't turn off as soon as Steven started that voice. The rest of you that are still hanging around, hi, Steven's mom. We're glad you're here with us.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for joining us for another week. We're happy to be here. Well, relatively.
As always, a shout out to communities on Twitter. Thursday, this previous Thursday, which is actually the day that we're recording this right now, but you're listening to this at least on Monday, was the 11th anniversary of the pilot of Community. And Communities put together this really great Twitter event live stream thing where we all get together and watch the pilot and tweet about it. And if you think stuff like that sounds fun and you're still not on board with Communities, go ahead and give them a follow. They've literally given our show a chance to succeed in a certain community of people, you know? So thanks for what you do for us, and go get on board with what they're trying to do for them.
Yeah, and happy birthday, Community.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a big girl now. 11.
Ugh. Might have to bleep that. Might have to bleep that. Now, we were 11 or 12 when it aired, which is crazy that now here we are that amount of time later, and we're doing a show about it still.
Yeah, we're big girls now.
We sure are. And big girls don't cry.
Like a little schoolmate in the schoolyard. Yeah, but it's crazy to think. I saw something today that somebody tweeted, and they were like, you know, what kinds of things were you into when Community came out? Did you watch the pilot as it aired? You know, all this stuff. And I was like,
yeah, whoever
wow.
tweeted that was really onto something. And
Yeah.
you should follow that account. I think at You Can't Disapod is definitely what it is. Go follow it right now.
Yeah, you should absolutely follow that account.
They always serving up that dank.
Yeah, they really seem to be on it at all times.
Yeah, a couple times a week.
But yeah, but Zach, to kind of answer your own question, what kinds of things were you really into when you were 11 and 12?
Well, you know, we've said before on this show that we both watched the first episode of Community when it aired, and didn't really stick on with it. So I think I still needed to be a couple years older to fall in love with it, which I did a couple years older.
Yeah.
You know, at that time I was almost exclusively listening to Radio Disney on
Nice.
XM satellite radio whenever my mom took me from place to place. I was avoiding all outdoor activity, which truly hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. And I was probably still writing my Total Drama Island fan fiction that involved classmates of mine.
Nice.
What about you?
I think that I would do really well on Total Drama Island. Not Survivor, but Total Drama Island I could thrive.
Yeah, I could, watching Survivor, I could never do any of that.
Oh, certainly not. Not for me. When I was like, let's see, I guess I would have been 12 when it came out. I actually, at this point, lived in France. No, I didn't. I moved to France a little bit after. 'Cause I moved in, I don't know. Time is weird. But
Time is weird, especially now.
Yeah,
What
I can't
is
keep
time?
track of things. I was really into the trumpet.
Okay.
I was like falling in love with that for the first time.
You still ever
So,
pick up the trumpet, Steven? You used to be pretty good at it.
Yeah, I still have it. I don't play it as much, but I
You
want
feel
to
like
get back
you still
into
still got the juice if you decide to pick it back up?
it. For about 20 seconds, and then my lips are shot. So.
So you could build it back up. The skill's
Yeah.
there. It's just okay. Go on.
Yeah. And I think also at that time I was starting to get into like horror movies. I really liked scary movies a lot at the time. So I had just started trying to watch like the original like Japanese versions of those movies. You know, I really should have known that I was going to get so into anime. There were plenty of signs. But I started to watch the Japanese versions of those movies, which are much scarier. But yeah, so that's kind of what I was about at the time.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad that we're all enlightened about how cool we were, just as cool at 11 as we are now.
Yep.
How's your week been? Do you have anything to report to everyone who's so invested in our day-to-day lives?
Yeah, it's been this week I feel like was a blur. I felt really busy.
Yeah.
But I also don't feel like I really did a whole lot.
I feel like that all
one
the
of
time.
those.
I feel like I
Yeah.
work a lot, but avoid work a lot, and that I do a lot, but I also typically choose to do very little.
Yeah. It's like I'm putting in maximum effort, but also minimum effort. And I don't know how long I can maintain this balance.
It's been working for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into some things. Today we are talking about Season 1, Episode 18 of Community. It's called Basic Genealogy. It was directed by Ken Whittingham and written by Carrie Dornetto. They were both one-time writers and directors. This was their only episode.
Hit it and quit it.
Okay. Carrie Dornetto, the writer, had previously written for Arrested Development, Portlandia, and South Park, though, so that's a pretty good track record.
Ooh, yeah, for
And-
sure. Do you like Portlandia?
I've never given it a fair chance. I feel like there's a chance I would find it a little bit annoying, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't find it funny, so maybe I should check it out.
Yeah.
I really like Fred Armisen in a lot of things, so maybe I
Same.
would enjoy it. Let's do some trivia before we talk about our opinions on the episode. I've got the usual 3 questions.
All right. I think you went first last week, so I'll go first this time.
Okay.
So this week we had a fantastic guest star, the incomparable Katherine McPhee, American Idol runner-up. She lost to that guy with the gray hair.
Taylor Hicks.
Taylor Hicks, yeah.
And boy, did his career take off after that.
Man, he such a bright star.
He's got to be dead
Deserves
by
a
now,
shot.
right? There's no
Wasn't
way.
he only like 25,
That
but
sounds
had
right.
a full head of gray hair?
Yeah. Katherine McPhee, I more know because of Smash.
I really like some people that are on that show. Never watched it, but I'm a big fan of Megan Hilty and her.
It was like gritty Glee set in the world of Broadway. The first season was pretty good, but it got real silly real fast, like most of those shows do.
Yeah, that's fair. I liked the music from it that I heard.
Yeah, there was some good original songs, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
lay
okay.
one on me. Please
All
lay
right.
one on me, Steven.
In the episode, she played a character named Amber, all right? And what
Right.
was Amber's mother's name?
Ooh, it wasn't Wanda. Pierce said it was Wanda, and Amber said no, it was, but I don't think I know. Off to a great start.
You know what? I think I made it a whoopsie.
Did you put Wanda?
I put Wanda.
Well, we'll see when we get to the episode.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure Pierce says, so how is
He-
Wanda? And
He
Amber's
asked
like,
about
"It's-"
Wanda, and she's like,
Yeah,
it's not Wanda,
it's not
it
Wanda.
was blank. Well, wow,
So we
that's
both
a,
got that
a
wrong.
big L
So
for
can that
me
one
here.
not count against me?
Yeah, I
Can
think
we
that
call
one.
that one a draw since
that one's a
it was
draw.
barely a question to begin with? Okay. Over the course of how many marriages has Pierce acquired how many stepchildren?
Okay, I know it's 32 stepchildren. Has he been married 7 times?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay, I
Great work.
almost said 8, but I stuck to my gut.
All right, what next?
Okay, here's a good one. Everyone's favorite recurring characters. A lot of growth here. What are Shirley's sons' names, and who are they named for?
Are they Bible names?
One of them is.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
That's
Is
all
it
right.
Isaiah? Is Isaiah one of them?
No, but it sounds kind of like Isaiah.
Anyway, what were they?
So Elijah, named for the prophet, And Jordan, named for the 14-time NBA All-Star.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a funny joke. Okay, my next question for you. What is on the poster behind Jeff when Annie is berating him for hooking up with Amber?
Oh, ball sacks. I even looked at the poster and was like, oh, I wonder what that says. I don't know. I'm going to take the L on this one.
It was an ad for an immersive language learning course in Barcelona.
Nice. Barcelona. Barcelona.
You got one more?
Yes,
Big boy?
I do. All right, here we go. What button was Troy supposed to press when he and Abed are stuck in the vending machine?
This is 1/3 of my final question.
Oh, boy.
He was supposed to press G14.
Okay.
So to carry the rest on to you, what button did he think he pressed? And what button visually did he press?
Oh, okay. Well, he thought he pressed G13.
Yes.
Now, my issue with the buttons on the machine is
Yes.
I don't necessarily know how tall those were, but I'm going to assume that if he was at the bottom row, then the first letter is still G, right? But I'm going to guess that he actually pressed G7.
Well, I didn't even have it that well because, you know, the resolution on my DVDs isn't that great.
Yeah.
I was just looking for something as simple as, like, it was the bottom row all the way to the left, so it would have been the letter. And so that was right, and he pressed it twice, the same button twice.
Ah,
But
okay, I
did
thought he
say
pressed the
that
one in the
he
middle. I
thought
got
he
you.
pressed G13,
Nice.
and that's my trivia. Is that yours as well?
That is mine as well.
Let's segue into our next segment.
All
we
right,
got
we've
some
got
listener questions.
Yeah, we got four emails today. I don't even know where to start. I'm going to start at the bottom because, you know, started from the bottom. Now we're here. All right, this is an email from our buddy Anorak. Says, hey guys, your last podcast was very fun to listen to. Physical education is a true community gym, and I'm interested in what you have to say about this one. At first watching, I was not a big fan of this episode, but I learned to appreciate it more, mainly because of the Jeff Pierce dynamic, which is still one of my favorites in the first season. Still not one of the best episodes, but a pretty decent one. Well, here are my trivia questions. So here we go. We've got, what did Shirley say Troy and Abed should do with Slater's cat? So I know she says that Jeff can come cry on her shoulder.
Yeah,
she's
and
like,
as soon as she says something about the cat, Troy and Abed are like, yep, we're in.
does
And
she
they get
say
up.
put it in that bitch's car or in her
Yes,
desk?
it's something.
One of
It's
the
something
two.
like that. It's definitely put it in that bitch's something.
Which is not the first time that Shirley has really tried to come for Slater.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh-oh. Question number 2. What is the name of Amber's mother, and which name does Pierce accidentally say instead?
Okay, so
one
Pierce
of those
says
is Wanda.
We're not sure about the other one. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
We're keeping track, I hope.
And the last one here, what does Amber draw in Pictionary? Well, obviously, Zach, if you watched the episode as closely as I did, you would know very
It's a
well.
happy sideways vagina, right?
Well, of course.
Right. I don't
Yeah.
refuse. That's the only answer I will
That's
be
the
giving.
right one.
Thank you.
A smiling sideways vagina. There's nothing else.
Next.
Okay, that's it, guys. By the way, she's excited for the next episode, Beginner Pottery, which is also a community classic. Thanks
Absolutely.
for writing in. Good to hear
With a
from
great
you.
underrated guest star as well in that one. Great to hear from you. Thanks for the questions. We actually got them for the most part, which is always a good feeling.
Yeah, right? Thank you for not making us feel bad. All right, this is a pretty exciting email here. This is from Avery. And Avery says, I watched Community for the first time in May when lockdown started and instantly became obsessed with it. Me
Nice,
too. I
good
also watched
choice.
it for the very first time in May when lockdown started.
He's still never seen it. You would think he should start by now.
Which is funny because after my binge started, I remembered being scared by the zombie episode and never wanting to watch it again when I saw it for the first time on TV at
That's
about
funny.
8 years old. That's funny. I loved binging it this summer, and now your pod is a fun reason to make the time to rewatch each episode this year during all the craziness of senior year. Well, totally
Nice.
thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Congrats on your senior year. You're only 75 once, so
Exactly.
take it all in.
This is random, but Pierce's gay jokes in this episode made me think about how different the show would be if Jeff had been canonically gay. Like Jeff and the Dean as Endgame or something, LMAO. Interesting ship! Also, I agree with you guys on this show. In shipping, I don't really like any of the couples except potentially Troy and Abed, especially later in the show when they're codependent and living together.
That
All right.
I could have honestly seen a little bit of. I still stand by that. Abed is pretty asexual and that Troy is attracted to women, but talks a
That's
lot
as much
more
as he
than
knows.
he enjoys doing anything with them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He wants to be perceived a certain way, so I could have definitely seen them of having like a cohabitation, like close
Absolutely.
emotional relationship with each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on
It's
board
like
with
what you
that.
and I have, minus the physical stuff, you know?
And as far as the gay jokes, yeah, you're totally right. I think I shouldn't, but I'm only willing to let those Pierce lines slide a little bit because it's Pierce and you can't take anything he says seriously.
Yeah. I
I'm
think if
sure
any other character made that many it would be a little more off-putting, I think.
and I'm sure he would make the same jokes if Jeff was canonically gay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely he would. He'd be a little bit more confused after he made the jokes, but he'd still make them.
Yeah.
All right, and here are the trivia questions. What does Shirley say she will do for Jeff after he says Slater dumped him? And what does she tell Troy and Abed to do? So for that one, we know that she said,
You've got a
I'll be your
couch to
shoulder
cry on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And something involving putting that bitch's cat somewhere, putting it somewhere. And Troy and Abed are very down to partake in that.
Which, as they should be. I'm game for that kind of action. And then the second question: what does Pierce think Amber's mother name is, and what is her real name?
Stop
Find out
asking.
that and more on the next episode.
As we watch the episode frame by frame during this podcast.
Yep.
It's Wanda is the wrong name, and I wish I could tell you the rest. I truly wish I could. Was it Avery? I wish I could.
Avery. Yep. All right. Third up, we've got MJ. Hey,
What's
Zach
up?
and Steven. Can I just say that last week's podcast was my top favorite from you guys so far? Well, thank you.
You know, I am
abs-
inclined to agree.
I think so. That was a pretty solid one. I absolutely agree with you that this is one of the highlights of season 1 so far, although I would put physical education just a smidge above comparative religion. Jeff and
I respect
Abed
it.
are both the MVPs of this episode for me, and I feel like this episode perfectly balanced the irreverent sense of humor of the show with the typical trappings of a sitcom. And I
Absolutely.
think this should be in the list of essential episodes that you can show a community newbie to get them hooked. Absolutely, for sure.
I literally had the thought last week that if you are intrigued by our podcast but don't know Community, physical education would be a good place to start community-wise, and it wouldn't be a bad first episode of our podcast to listen to either.
No, I don't think. Yeah,
and then
'cause
go
you just
back if
downhill
you
from
catch
there.
the bug. Yeah.
Anyway, I want to apologize to y'all for putting you through the ringer with my quiz last week.
Dang.
Definitely overshot the difficulty level with that quiz, so for this week, just going to scale it down to an easier 6-question round, which is fine since Basic Genealogy is at the bottom of the barrel for me quality-wise. I'm sure you guys will make me appreciate the episode more once you talk about it, though, which I'm seeing a lot of kind of, I think you said this last week, there are a lot of kind of opposite ends of the spectrum feelings about this episode, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little more. But
That's true, but I really feel like it tends to end on one side of the spectrum with fans more often than not. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking it through with you.
yeah.
What's MJ got for us?
All right. So first question, why was Slater so busy on Family Day? I know this one. She had to get 30 chairs to put in her classroom. Track them down. Does that sound about right?
She did say in the very beginning of the episode, "Oh, I'm so busy. Yeah, I need 30 chairs in my class because Family Day. Jeff, it's over."
Roll credits.
And that's a wrap on Michelle Slater.
Yeah,
Everybody.
They really quick out for her.
We'll get to that later. She does show up one other time, but we'll talk about our thoughts of this
Yeah.
decoupling.
All right. Number 2, what are 3 things that Troy likened to Britta's situation with Nana Barnes?
Oh, man. You know, I know exactly what he's talking about, but I don't know the specific examples off the top of my head.
That would be coffee grinders, pocket watches, and a fake love of steamboats.
White people things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely had to tell Lily we don't need to buy a coffee grinder before. Like, that sounds awful. It just get bean dust everywhere.
Yeah.
People do that when you buy the coffee. Okay. Sorry, I love you, Lily, but it ain't happening. Not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
All right. There's
all
your
right.
Slinky Dog voice. Not bad. You've been working on it, I can tell.
Oh, I've been practicing in the mirror a lot. I've been stretching myself out like a slinky dog and really straining my voice. Number 3, hope you know your Pictionary. Oh, wow. Okay, actually, what color and category is the word that Pierce got when it was his turn to draw on the Pictionary game?
Oh, shoot. I don't know the category, but was it orange?
I thought it was blue.
Okay. And would it just be thing?
I guess I don't think I've actually ever played Pictionary the right
Yeah.
way, so I don't know.
Anyway,
Okay, number 4. What snack did Elijah get at the vending machine where he was trapped? That would be a ding dong.
that sounds right.
All
I like
right.
those. I enjoy a ding dong every once in a while, every once in a blue moon.
They're pretty solid, but if I'm gonna eat a sweet, in that hostess realm,
Sure.
probably gonna be a ding dong. If they don't
Okay.
have individually packaged Little Debbies, because those are my shit.
Shout
All
out
right.
Little Debbie, we'd love to have you on the show if your
I would
schedule
give
allows.
anything to have Little Debbie on the show.
Okay.
All right. What was the name of the closing event during Greendale Family Day? I don't know this one.
Closing event? No, I don't either.
All right.
Womp womp.
All right. And this is a question that we've already answered, but I'm gonna read
Was
it
it
anyway.
just the party that was at the end, or was it something more specific than that?
I don't know.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And then in the end tag, what button was Troy supposed to push in the
Yeah.
vending machine so that his phone can get pushed out from his pocket and he can call for help? What button
Some
is it,
MacGyver
Zach? Do
stuff.
you know?
It was G4 was what he was supposed to press, but G3. I put my notes away, so I hope this is right. Is what
It's
he pressed
actually
instead?
not.
Is that opposite? He's
It's
supposed to press
G14.
G4. 14. Oh my god. Okay, but he pressed G13,
Yes.
and it gave him one right up the butthole. Allegedly.
Right up the bum.
Allegedly.
And then he says he'll be back, but with booty. Thanks, MJ.
Oh, nice. Thanks, MJ.
That's nice. And then we have one more email.
Okay.
This one is from Danny. Hi, Danny.
What's
He
up?
said, "Hey, Steven and Zach. Hope y'all are having a great week. You guys made me laugh so much with your last episode. I absolutely
Nice.
loved it.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed rewatching this episode so much. Can't wait to hear your take on it. Here are my questions. I'm sure some of them will be repeated." Bum,
Okay.
bum, bum.
We'll see.
All right. What reason did Slater give to Jeff to explain why he hadn't seen her? And that was the chairs. Now, this is a tough one because I have not even the slightest inkling on this
Yeah.
question. There's a couple of maps in the Spanish classroom blackboard.
Ooh.
What's wrong with them?
No clue.
I have
No clue.
no idea. Wow, that'll be interesting. We'll have to look and see.
I
if we
think I
can
might have
identify.
heard this fluke before. I feel like they're labeled to be a certain country, but they're not. Of that country,
Oh.
or something like that. Like
I can see
something
that.
backwards Chang thinking he knows more than what he actually does. But we'll see.
Next one, how many stepchildren does Pierce have, and over the course of how many marriages? That was 32 in 7.
Yes.
Pretty solid numbers there, Pierce.
Yes.
What did Abed compare Abra's burqa to when he was explaining it to Jordan and Elijah?
It's like a Muslim turtleneck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what's the word in the Pictionary card above windmill?
Above windmill?
Mm-hmm. I don't
I looked at
remember.
this because I almost wanted to put it as a question, and part of the words are covered by thumbs, but it looks like a roommate.
Okay, roommate.
And it was like ummat.
Not.
There's no N in roommate, but okay.
You know.
All right, well, thanks.
Yeah,
How's
thanks
Danny?
everybody for writing in. Thanks, Danny.
Thanks, everyone. Hey, I almost put it in motion for this episode. Well, go ahead, finish your thought.
I was
Never
just gonna
mind. Go
say-
ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I want to take this time to talk to you all about our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Go ahead, Zach.
Anyway, something I think will be a fun little segment to add, another way for you guys to add something to the show and for us to have something prepared for the show. I think every week we're going to pick, each of us, me and Steven, a moment that made us laugh the most.
Oh,
That
yeah.
could be something as simple as, like, Gillian's delivery of this line made me lose it, or something as broad as, like, the entire Troy and Abed storyline this week was phenomenal. You know what I mean? Just the thing that just lost you. You guys emailed them into us with your trivia questions. What moments made you laugh the hardest? And we'll let you know the same of us, because there's so many funny moments. And even an episode like this, which we're about to discuss what we thought of it, there were some really classic funny moments in there that stand aside from the rest of the series. So
Yeah, I had a
there's always
moment where
something.
I almost had to pause the show because I was
Yeah.
laughing so hard.
Awesome. And I've definitely had to do that before.
All right, well, we ready to jump in?
Well, yeah, before we do, let's talk briefly just our thoughts on this episode, Basic Genealogy. Steven, what did you think?
I actually enjoyed this episode quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of things that miss and that don't land and that did not age well. Like a couple that were like probably some of the most egregiously offensive jokes in the
Okay.
show thus far. But I think that the highs in this episode I really, really like. So overall, it kind of lands in the middle of the pack for me because of the pros and cons being so heavyweighted for me in this one. But yeah.
I think I've got to say I didn't care for this one that much. There are no episodes of Community, especially in the first couple of seasons, that I just outright dislike. But this one doesn't do a ton for me, and a lot of it feels kind of out of character to me. Let's see. I thought Chevy Chase was strangely off his game during this episode, in one that focused a lot on Pierce. It seemed like he was really half-assing a lot of his lines to me.
None of his deliveries were that great in this one. I don't think his timing wasn't that good with them. Like, it was something, like you said, it was off. I agree.
And I don't know if it's because it's people who only directed and wrote for the show one time. I don't know if it's because we're in the first season and there's still episodes that feel like a different Community than others. Something just felt kind of off throughout the episode. I don't want to spoil every thought that I have, but I would put this at the bottom of the first season so far, even though I'd still probably give it like a B-. Yeah. So let's dive right in.
That's fair.
We open with a really great shot of Family Day. You know, the Greendale hallways are really bustling with people, and the first thing we see is the human being with little human being.
I hate it.
I think it's really confusing, and
It's so scary.
I would love a spin-off to find out the inner workings of the man who is the human being. And is it like what's the thing on Rick and Morty?
Mr.
The
Meeseeks?
the horror movie guy.
Scary
bitch.
Terry.
Scary Terry, when he
You
goes
can run,
home
but
and he
you
has
can't hide, bitch.
Yeah, he goes home and he has Scary Terry children. He has Scary Terry
Jonathan.
wife. Yeah, and I like to think that it's the same with the human being, and I would love to see that put into actuality.
That is now
think it's a
canon
really
in
funny
my
way.
mind, that human being has like wife being and baby being.
This episode, unfortunately, starts off with a really quick scene to break up Jeff and Slater, and it really seems like the type of thing where it's like they called the actors who played Slater and were like, hey, can you come in for just like an hour to film this scene so we can get you the off of our show?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they've spent 20 episodes building this
Yeah.
relationship, but they have spent some time trying to
Yeah.
actually show growth in Jeff and that he's finally caring about somebody
Yes.
romantically past the physical part. But
Absolutely.
now they're like,
Yeah, and okay, so they're walking down the hallway. As we mentioned, Slater's talking about how she's really busy because it's Family Day. Jeff mentions for the first time his family. You know, later in the series, we hear a lot about Jeff's issues with his father.
Yeah.
But right now he mentions, hey, I almost invited my mom, but she still thinks I'm a lawyer. So it shows you that Jeff's parents aren't very much in his life. And as they're walking, I don't know, they point out the creepiness of the human being and the little human being, and it's really clear that Slater is holding something back, has something to say, and it's literally as simple as she says,
Jeff, we need to talk.
What's wrong? Are you breaking up with me?
Oh, maybe we don't need to talk.
which, oh
end
my God.
End of the relationship that's lasted at least a quarter of the season.
Yeah.
And I know the reason that they gave for this is that Katherine McPhee was the guest star that they got for the episode. They wanted there to be a thing with her and Jeff, so by proxy, they had to end the Slater relationship. I think that could have worked. And honestly, the scene that just rips the Band-Aid off, since I don't care a ton about the relationships on the show, it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And I like that they kind of made a joke out of it instead of a big moment. However, I think the show did a disservice by not doing one of two things. There should have either been another Jeff and Slater focused episode before this one that maybe showed some roadblocks, even if it was just in the background of an episode. You know, last week it was physical education. We didn't even get a mention of her.
No.
And I know that the order is messed up, but that's the order of the episodes.
Yeah, and that's why I guess it makes a little more sense that they would have that kind of flirty thing with the other girl in his class until, I mean, not really flirty. It was kind of just, you expect her to be looking at Jeff that way, and then she goes to Abed. But, yeah, like you said, no mention of anything. It's
there's so much you could have done with this. It's the first series, even if it wasn't so serious. You know, none of us expected it to last forever. It was one of the first serious-ish relationships Jeff had, and now it's over. How does he feel about that? And I don't know. I didn't need it to last forever, but it just seems like, what was the point?
Yeah, I think they threw it away in just a very, like, okay. Like, it shows that they didn't care about it either.
The second thing that I think is a misstep of the show is that they didn't ever then, if they were going to end it this way, they needed to bring Slater back in some significant motion in the future. And I don't know if they wanted to and the actress was too busy, but I'm sure that it could have happened. She does make a small appearance in the season 1 finale, which we'll cover in, after this, we only have 7 more episodes of season 1 than
wow, that's
season
crazy.
2. Yeah. And I think Slater makes a small appearance, but they do not do anything significant with her, and I don't think we see her again after that. And we should have seen her in, like, season 3 or 5 even, like you mentioned, when Jeff was a professor.
Mm-hmm. It would have made so much more sense if she came back in season 5.
The final thing I want to say is it doesn't make sense that, I don't know, they wanted Jeff to be together with Katherine McPhee. Well, they could have recorded this episode and, like, slated it for later in the season and had another Jeff and Slater thing. It's not just because one actress... I don't know. It just seems like they could have done it better and they chose to not.
Mm-hmm. Because they don't... If we've learned anything from watching the season so far, they can mix and move around episodes at whim,
Yeah. But I think that's usually a network decision and not a creative decision. So maybe it's not like a strategic plot device that they can use very often. I don't know. So we're in the study group room. We'll talk more about that as the relationship with Jeff and Amber, is that her name?
Yes.
Begins to unfold. Everyone's in the study group room talking about Family Day and who everyone has coming for them. Shirley's sons are coming. I really like the aside where, Abed really hopes they're not twins because twins freak him out, and mentions how they always finish each other's sentences, but Troy finishes his sentence because they're on like a twin wavelength.
Yeah,
it's cute. It's a nice Troy Abed moment. I definitely feel that way with Lily sometimes, where it's just like we're sharing the same 2 or 3 brain cells.
Yeah.
And we'll just be on the same wavelength. I think I've had times like that with you as well. Probably not.
Unfortunately.
But so twins freak, Abed out. Shirley's sons aren't twins, yeah? They're just
I think they're just
similar
close.
age.
Yeah.
Finishing each other's pie. It's creepy. Shirley's looking forward to...
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
The longer version, what does Abed say after he says pie? Because in the version on Hulu, like, the words that he says it's creepy, but his mouth says something before it.
Let's see. In this one, finishing each other's pie. It's creepy. They're going to be... Yeah, there isn't anything. I think it's just something that was on the cutting room floor.
Ah, interesting.
I do not believe there's anything after that. At least not... I don't use the DVD when we're recording the episode, so at least whatever version I have here is congruent with what you just said. Mm-hmm. Shirley's looking forward to spending time with them because she hasn't spent much time with them since she's been in school, which I know is a real thing. Mm-hmm. Before I was born, my sister was very young while my mom went back to college a little bit later in life, and it was really tough. Like the grandparents kind of take over your child.
Yeah.
And you're in class all the time. You're working jobs to pay for the classes all the time. It's tough. Shirley doesn't get her credit at all.
No, she doesn't.
And maybe I don't give my mom the credit either. I should call her sometime. She says
next time I talk to your mom, maybe like, hey, did you hear Zach's shout out to you on our podcast?
And she'd be like, podcast.
www.podcast.com/Zachary.
Shirley says something that's pretty jagged, where her sister likes to joke that the kids don't recognize her anymore because they don't see each other, and then she turns it on her and it's like, and I like to joke she's jealous because she's barren.
Listen.
Just classic sister talk.
Yeah, I guess.
Just classic sister talk. Abed's dad is back this week, and he's bringing Abed's cousin. Annie says really excitedly, but this is a little bit out of character for Annie when she's like, does she look like you in a wig and lipstick?
Yeah.
But no, that's Halle Berry.
That was funny. I really liked that.
Yeah, so Abed's cousin, who wears a full burqa, is coming. I do like some of the subplots in this a lot that shade in some of these characters a little bit more. There are a couple that don't work as well for me. We'll get to that as we do. Troy has a really funny aside because his grandma's coming, and his grandma's really like strict and authoritative and frightening. Mm-hmm. So he says, "Oh, I got to pick a cabinet to hide in," which is really specific. People are like,
you just know for a fact that like so much of his childhood and probably teenage years
he had a
was
hiding
spent
cabinet.
hiding in cabinets from her.
he Britta says, like, oh, come on, you don't really hide from your grandma on a cabin. He's like, yes, I do. She's scary. And Britta gives that whole, like, I don't know, activist white girl pushing her way into someone else's problems. Like, oh, the old won't be here for forever, and you need to cherish her, and wants to help Troy with this problem. It's really funny the way Troy responds, like, are you sure she's not going to be around forever? I want to believe you're right, but you never
quite are.
Which also implies that he has this vision of his grandmother, of this, like, unable to die, just like... Without calling anybody out, I'll expand it to not just family. Are there any elderly people in your life, or that have been in your life, that you're just like, they're invincible and they're awful?
I've known some people, yes, that were old and mean and just needed to go on and finish it up. But I will say, in terms of my own grandmother, my own grandmother is super duper sweet. But in terms of, like, it's
some
essentially
of the stuff Troy's grandmother does?
Two actors reading reading the same script is what's going on. Because my grandmother says some of the things that come out of Troy's grandmother's mouth, just in a very
not as harsh
less
of a
aggressive
tone.
way. Yeah.
So have you ever been taken out to pick a switch?
Not by my grandmother, no. I don't think my grandma's ever spanked me. And my mom...
Just by me. That's only happened
just you.
from me.
You're the only one who has me pick a switch, Zach. But I actually, contrary to what you may believe, listeners, from the stories we've told in this podcast, when I was at home, I was pretty well behaved. But that's because when I was younger...
He was just misbehaved when he was at productions of The Diary of Anne Frank.
Exactly, exclusively. I knew where to behave and where not to.
And he knew where the productions of Diary of Anne Frank were.
Always. I still get updates on my phone. Yikes.
If you didn't listen to that podcast, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Move on. Go ahead.
But, I got spanked a couple times when I was younger, and that was enough for me to not want it to happen anymore. So I knew how far I could push it before the spoon or hand or occasionally belt. Not so often belt for me with my mom, but...
See, my punishment like that came from my mother, and she was so, like willing and able to discipline, but, is like me, to where, like, her heart's too big that she's like, I can't do it.
Like, I feel like if your mom ever, like, spanked you, she'd, like, get you an ice cream afterwards.
It would always be this really awkward where she'd, like, make eye contact with me and look like she's about to, like, cry and be like, now, Zachary, this hurts me much more than it'll hurt you. And then prepares to give me, like, a
little swat.
Like
a pat that's really just more uncomfortable than anything else. Yeah.
It's just awkward.
Like, I wish you'd actually put some force behind it, because now, like, it's weird.
But there's plenty of spank talk to be had during this episode. We'll get to it later.
Yes, we will.
Jeff walks in, and the people are like, oh, were you with your girly friend? And it is awkward when you're in school, and when people see you you're in a relationship, it's usually a question like that. And you're like, no, my life has, the light in my life has been snuffed out.
And I know that
now we will walk past each other before biology, and I'll breathe a heavy sigh.
I'm going to clean out my stuff from your locker between 6th and 7th period, so don't be there.
Just have your stuff out before the next passing period. I can't stand to see you in C hallway.
Sorry, I was late to class. I was cleaning my stuff out of my girlfriend's locker.
I'm going through some... You get asked a question by the teacher, like, I'm sorry, I'm just really going through some stuff right now.
Can I go see the counselor?
Oh, man. Jeff does not really react that way. He kind of sighs. He's like, actually, no, she dumped me. And everyone feels sad for her, but he's immediately... Well, not immediately. You've got that, like... Shirley jumps right to... you've got a shoulder to cry on. You boys put a dead bird. It was not her cat.
Oh.
Put a dead bird in that bitch's glove compartment.
Oh, my God.
But Jeff isn't that worried about it. He's more concerned about getting laid again. Right?
Yeah, good. Jeff's real man's man.
Cares. He's like, I'm glad I didn't have to do the dumping, which I get. Mm-hmm. And then he said I'd have to lay low for 3 weeks to be sensitive. I remember... I used to have in high school, like when I was really young, I had like a formula for like how long it was okay. Yeah, like how long to wait until it was okay.
What was yours?
It was like a week for every month.
Well, because we can't do a month for every year because none of our relationships lasted that long in high
So
school.
yeah, the relationships were usually like, 4, 5, 6
months,
months.
yeah.
You're really talking. They're usually like 3 or 4 ish. Yeah. So I don't know that I ever actually did it, but in my head I would say, okay, a week for every month.
That's nice. I only had like one relationship with very quick turnaround, and it was not looked upon too kindly. But there,
I have had a very similar situation, but that's for a much different podcast. And now my position has really changed because if me and Lily were to break up today, I'd be in Steven's
I was
apartment.
gonna say you'd be at my
tonight.
door
I'd be
before
in
the
Chicago
sun
very
fell.
soon. But Jeff says, yeah, since I'm the dumpy, I can make out with everyone I want and get laid all the time, and everyone will feel sorry for me for being dumped, which isn't not what it's like in a school setting sometimes.
Yep. Well, because you always feel bad for who got dumped, like when you're in a school setting. So you're like, oh, you meanie.
Yeah. You're still friends with the person who dumped me? Like, yeah, we have been for 10 years, but our love was shattered. Shirley says, you're just like a machine. It feels no love, just sex. You're like the booty-nator. That's when we bring up this whole, I'll be back, but with booty, that everyone gets a chance to say.
Which is really fun. That's
Booty-nator reminds me of like toe mater.
What an ambitious crossover that would be.
Someone says, if he found booty, wouldn't he just try to kill it? Maybe kills it and brings it back as a trophy. They're all arguing this, and then Jeff gets to be the cool guy as he's eyeballing the beautiful Katherine McPhee from outside of the study group room. Says, guys, I'll be back, but with booty. That's what I say whenever I have to leave a situation to come record my podcast.
I also like the mix of like active booing and cheering that the study group does for him throughout this.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. He walks out to meet Amber, played by Katherine McPhee. Mm-hmm. I guess I might as well put this out here. I do not think Katherine McPhee did a very good job in this episode. I feel like she didn't get silly enough at all, and she just I don't know. I just feel like the way she delivered all of her lines was very flat.
I agree, and I also think that Katherine McPhee at this time was still trying to transition from singer to actress. I feel like the stuff I've seen her in within the last few years, I've liked a lot more.
I don't remember her being anything awful in Smash. I think they mentioned in the commentary that this was one of her first big guest starring roles in something, so that might be the case. But anyway, regardless of the reason, it felt really flat to me. So I don't know. I cared less about Jeff and her attraction to each other in this episode, less than I have anybody in the show. I felt more for Annie and Abed last week than I did for
You know
Jeff
what? In
and
all
Amber.
honesty, I'm gonna agree with you there because as much as I like Katherine McPhee and I think she's really attractive and pretty, I didn't really care about whether or not Jeff got with her. Yeah.
And I don't think it's because of knowing that it's just a one episode appearance.
Yeah.
I think it's just because there's truly nothing there.
Yeah, there was very little chemistry. I mean, other than just maybe a physical attraction that they give a couple hints at with them looking at each other, there's nothing else there.
Right.
And I really don't like Jeff's creepy uncle line.
At the very least, I could fill in for a creepy uncle. Yeah,
Gross.
She's there for Family Day. Yeah, that seems like a very what Dan Harmon thinks cool guys say to women to get them. Yeah, sorry, Dan. Come on the show, buddy. Uncle, come be our show's creepy uncle, Dan Harmon.
See, it's okay if it's our creepy uncle.
So she's there for Family Day, and it's only a matter of moments until Pierce walks out and reveals to us all that this is his family, kind of. There she is. Look at you, all grown up. He hugs her. And yeah, like I said, just from the beginning, I think Pierce doesn't feel like a character feeling anything in this episode, even though there are plenty of lines that are talking about how he does. Mm-hmm. It feels like Chevy saying lines and not believing them.
Yeah.
Personally, no MVP for Pierce this week, even though he was in a top position in the episode.
He was in a top position in the episode for sure.
So yeah, this beautiful girl who Jeff has just met and wants to sink his slightly gross teeth into is Amber, one of Pierce's many, many stepchildren, but the only one out of 32 that he could get to show up. I do like Jeff's like, oh, what a small world, still kind of turning the charm on a little bit. And I do like Pierce's comeback. No, actually, it's a very big world with 5 billion other women in it. Good luck.
Which is nice because it's the one time we see Pierce actually like not want everyone to be sleeping with everyone,
Well, it's weird because what Pierce is trying to prove by having Amber show up on his behalf, they should give us a lot here. He says it's because it's his only chance to have a real child, but I feel like he's got to know that that's not really it.
Yeah.
And I do think part of it is that he wants to show off this clearly gorgeous woman to all of the people around him.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
It is a little weird. Yeah, he kind of gets a little, Donald Trumpy when he's talking about how hot she is.
Oh, God. I don't think I can write off any of Pierce's stuff as shenanigans that are funny if we're going to put him anywhere near the same
level of disgustingness that it is to talk about your daughter is that.
President of the United States.
Well, actually, you're right, because this is Pierce's ex-stepdaughter that he's talking about, not his own biological child.
Biological flesh and blood. So clearly that's why one is president and one is not.
You gotta
Donnie, just come on the
Donnie.
show. We know you're a fan. We know you're listening. We know you listen to everything that anyone ever says about you all the time, always.
Listen, and I promise we're gonna read one of your emails one of these days, but you gotta lay off the slurs, man.
Yeah, try to make it seem to be about community. Okay, sorry, Donnie. We don't want to alienate any of our loyal listeners. Jeff enters back into the study room. He has to say that he's back. No booty. Everyone feels kind of bad for him. And that's where the theme song blurb is.
Which was a weird time to put it, right? I feel like they really could have put it when he said, I'll be back, but with booty.
And then we could have come back with him trying to hit on. Yeah. You're absolutely right. There's a lot of awkward pacing in this episode.
You know what? Let's recut Community and fix it.
What do you mean?
Just fix it. We have the director's cut. We have the extended footage. We have all the scenes.
What's the top on your list of things that need to be fixed in Community?
I'm gonna supercut all the. It's just gonna be one big.
Leonard. It's gonna be just Leonard.
It's gonna be Leonard, Fat Neil, and the Dean exclusively. That's the whole show.
And anytime it's one of those characters talking to other people, we'll like superimpose Leonard, Fat Neil, or the Dean. Yeah.
We'll actually just like put up a cardboard cutout, of one of them, but instead of like the dialogue so that it's not their voices, we have to like record it and dub it over in the Dean, Leonard, and Fat Neil's voices.
I think this has legs.
Yeah.
I think this could go somewhere for sure.
Yeah, let us know if you were going to recut Community with only Dean, Fat Neil, and Leonard. What would your ideal...
Don't listen to him. Don't. I get to tell you what to email us. We cut to Chang's Spanish classroom, really crowded with a lot of people's family. It's so strange, like many events that are held at Greendale Community College, that so many people show up to this. Don't some of these people have jobs, or don't some of these kids have school?
Well, and also,
it seems like it's during a school day.
Well, family day at colleges is normally like a football game or like a fair or something,
No, it's just like follow your kids around through their lives.
Like
for a
it's
day.
not second grade, like it's not an open house, I don't.
And typically you don't need to have family day at a school where people aren't living there, but I guess people are living here. I don't know.
Well, and
Greendale,
also
figure
where
your shit
most
out.
of your students are like adults with children. Maybe not with children, but like a lot of their students are, in their mid to late 20s, at least appearance-wise.
Absolutely. We get the return of Principal Figgins from Glee, Abed's father.
He's a vampire.
He's just kind of like lurking and looking disapprovingly at all of the chaos going around in the room. Shirley's children are chasing each other, and they point toy guns at Abed's father, whose name I believe is Gooby. We learn in this episode.
Yeah.
Get him while he's Gooby.
Oh.
What? You don't like it?
Gooby.
Do you think they could have chosen better?
I mean, they didn't name him Raj. I'll give him that.
Well, it's either Raj or Gooby.
Well, those are your only options.
Right. Well, they did name the one person of Asian descent in the show Chang.
Chang, that's true.
Ben Chang. Yeah. Shirley yells at her children to leave Gooby alone. Shirley and Abed's father introduce each other. Shirley gives that line about why her kids are named what they're named. I don't know.
I think
Just some
this
place
whole
setting.
scene in the classroom had a lot of
Filler?
Well, I was gonna say like a lot of jokes that would not probably fly today.
Some of the Muslim
That like just
Arab
starting
people
with it. I mean, in
jokes.
the United States, those would probably fly because people still, are very
Right. Never forget.
Yeah. So they shit. They're gonna think we. Damn it. They're
gonna think we
yeah. I'll try to give them that nonchalant. Yeah. To never forget 9/11, but
Yeah. Okay. I'll just say, sure, never forget 9/11, but nobody's forgetting it. There's other fish to fry.
Literally. We reminded every year. Yeah, I think that the
It's
kids
not
aiming the
remembering
guns
to turn the clock back twice a year.
You know what? You want to know what's more important for our
Don't
economic
forget
society?
Christmas. You don't have to be reminded to forget. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll save that for our 9/11 podcast.
Can't wait. It's going to be
okay,
called
so-
Jet Fuel Melts Our Hearts.
So speaking of 9/11, Abed introduces the study group to his cousin, who is fully covered.
Which Shirley yells.
Her name is Abra. I
Kadabra.
like Shirley is like she speaks with her hands when she says greetings.
Yeah, Shirley is the most racist in the study group.
Clearly, and she's in a study group with Pierce.
With Pierce Hawthorne. But she is like consistently every time there's anyone of a different religion
She doesn't
or
know how to
anything,
act, but I feel like it's true to people of her age and
I will say
of her being a mother and of her demographic. Yeah.
yes, it absolutely is. It falls back into the same line of like where she dressed up as Harry Potter because she knows it's a character. Like she's like, oh, this is a person that's different. Let me talk in a way that they can understand me.
Yeah, exactly. And we missed the line earlier when Abed's father gives her his name, and she's like, "Oh, does that mean hello?"
Oh no! Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So now we cut over to Pierce with his stepdaughter sitting next to him, and a couple of the study group guys around him explaining his marriage and stepchild situation. And Amber's his favorite of all 32. How many of his stepchildren do you think he had to call before he got one?
32.
Or do you think she was his choice all along?
I think that he sent out an email to 32 stepchildren saying that they were all invited to come to this family day and that he was excited to see them all there. And then he sent more emails to her saying, your siblings are really excited to see you again.
Yeah, that's what this is. She's like, I was under the impression that this was going to be a family reunion, and Pierce is like, it sure is, honey.
It sure is. Yikes.
Yeah. After that, we learn that she's going to photography school, which Jeff is like, oh, that's pretty cool, and Pierce is like, keep it in your pants. And Pierce says a very Trump thing when he's like, keep it to yourself. She's very hot, but she's my princess.
Yikes.
We should play a game in a future episode with a guest. Who said it?
Trump or Pierce?
The President of the United States or Pierce Hawthorne?
That would be such a fun game.
Yeah, and I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to come up with many examples of both.
For sure.
Like, that's one right there. She may be hot, but she's my princess. After he says that, Amber says step princess, and Pierce does this thing where he puts, like, his hands close to each other in front of his face, like his palms.
Yeah.
And he's, like, looking down or, like, sizing something up, and I have absolutely no idea what he was doing.
Well, it doesn't
right
make
there.
any sense, and I really was also curious about what that meant. Like, was he saying, like...
I had no idea.
Now, in this... leave this in if you want. I don't know if he was, like, going with the old, anime predicament thing where it's like, well, it's not by blood. We're this far apart, relation-wise. Is that what he was doing there? Or, is he,
There's no blood. It's fine. It's fair game.
Yeah.
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 That's my ship from this episode. Is Amber and Pierce.
Oh, no.
They just have this radiating... Anyway.
I really ship... well, I guess I'll cross that road when we get there, and I'll give you my
Please don't take
my
any of the silly
OTP.
shit I say seriously.
I'll give you my one true pair.
Okay, so this whole Chang class bit is basically a like roast session of all of his classmates and the people that he's brought. We see Starburn's son. There's a very great family resemblance, and they both react similarly when they're made fun of by Chang when he calls them both virgins.
Yeah.
And this is a first. After Chang burns them, he says, "Cha-chang," and it's the first time he's used his name as like a pun or like a word accenter, and that becomes something
That definitely
Chang
becomes
does
a thing.
lot. That's the first one.
Wow.
Cha-chang.
Cha-chang.
All right. After that, he takes a stab at Winger because he doesn't have any family. Like the agnostic he is, he's like, everyone here is my family. And we get one of those patented, like, slow trickle in of people throwing paper wads at him.
I like that Troy has participated every time.
Troy asks Chang, "Where's your family, LT Gray?" And this is one of the things I don't like about this episode. The Chang family stuff doesn't work for me. And it's not because of like who his brother character was or the guy who played him or what they did with him. It's just Chang is a character that like filling in stuff like that makes him work less as a character.
Yeah, I
It, like,
want
has
more
to be an
mystery to him.
enigma. Yeah.
Like, I want none of his life to make sense. Now, was it funny
Right.
that there's a Spanish teaching brother and then a rabbi brother?
Of course.
Sure.
It's a funny joke.
But
What isn't a funny joke is then Chang starts talking about Abed's family and
Yeah.
refers to his cousin as Phantom Menace.
That's
and
pretty
how's the trade
freaking
embargo with
harsh.
the Naboo.
ooh, so for those of you who
Yikes.
haven't seen episode 1 of Star Wars, please watch it.
I've slept through
in
it a
its
few
entirety.
times. Okay, real quick. I'm sure we'll have plenty of times where we segue and talk about Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Let's quickly, by number, rank them. Favorite?
Okay.
Or, okay, to make it even easier, because that would take forever. Rank the trilogies.
Oh, okay. In all honesty, at this point, probably original, prequels, new one.
I think I know that it's kind of like season 4 Community.
Yep.
We all agreed when they came out that the prequels suck. They're bad.
Prequel
and now all
is
of a sudden,
episode 1 actually is my favorite of the movies, and my second favorite is episode 3. So you're not gonna win any points with me there. I don't think they're
I
better, but
understand
they're
that,
my
and that's
favorites.
exactly what I'm saying. It's become almost like a counterculture thing where like now the people like us who were little kids when those movies came out and like saw them when we were very young, that's
Yeah.
what we've grown up with. That's how we were introduced to Star Wars. So it's grown up to be a lot of people's favorites. When I just really think they pale in comparison to the originals. As far as like storytelling goes, and especially as far as character goes.
Definitely.
I feel like
Yeah.
all the characters in the prequels just feel like they're saying words on a page, or it's like almost like Shakespearean
Well,
in a
that's
way.
because Hayden Christensen delivers it like he's in a freaking Shakespearean
But it's not just
play.
him. I feel like it's like everybody, other than one or two, maybe.
Yeah.
Other than Samuel L. Jackson, because you get
And-
what you get with him.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair. He's gonna be Samuel Jackson.
Where
no matter
the
what he's in.
originals had so much charm, and the characters felt more real in such a ridiculous setting. And I almost give the current trilogy points too, because it has some of that, even if the way they went with a lot of the mythology was very strange.
Well, I would even say that Episode 7 is one of the best movies, Star Wars movies. I think,
I've
and I
hard
liked
turned
Episode
around
8.
on Last Jedi. Episode 8 I didn't like very much when I saw it, and now I think just from a filmmaking perspective and how they really took some risks with that movie,
Yeah.
I think it pays off. What doesn't pay off is how the most recent one was like, nah, a couple of people were mad about it, so let's just turn this into fan fiction.
And that for me was so upsetting because it was super obvious from the trailers for the last one what the big twist was going to be, and then they just literally said, hey, all those characters that like you did like from the first one in the trilogy, we don't care about them anymore. We're gonna do whatever the most liked tweet from a 15-year-old was
Yeah.
about this movie, and we're gonna make it
Yeah.
canon. So
The first one was very fan servicey too, but it felt like the beginning of something new. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And then the second one of the newer trilogy felt like another beginning of something new, and then the third one felt like
the end of a totally
bad
different
ending
story.
to both of them. Yeah.
I'm
Last
Rey
aside, the thing that made
Skywalker.
me angriest about the Rise of Skywalker was it's like the end of the saga. Like they're gonna make tons of more Star Wars movies, but it's the end for a long time of the Skywalker saga. Spoilers following if you haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker.
Fast
There are
forward
moments-
about like 5 minutes to 10.
We're not going to stay that long. Fast forward like 2 minutes maybe. They acted like they were going to kill off Chewie. You really feel that
I
death,
almost
and
walked
then
out
he's
of the
fine.
theater.
No, hear me out. Yeah, that happens, and it's crushing, and you feel it, and then you find out that it didn't happen. The same with R2D2, or not R2D2, C3PO. He gives up his memory to help the heroes, and then never mind, it's back.
Yeah.
I feel like even though it would have made people mad and been like really emotional,
It would
I
have
think a
been
lot of
something.
those moments could have worked in the final film, but instead they weren't willing to do anything risky.
And that's what's upsetting, because when they blew up that ship, literally when I was in the theater, a guy got up and left at that point. Like, he left. He said, F*** this, and he left. And I was like,
when
did
that
they really
happened,
kill him?
me and the people I would have seen it with were like jaw dropped.
I was upset.
We're like,
I was
oh
like
my
about to
God.
cry. But I was invested.
I was upset in feeling that way too. Yeah, it felt like something big was happening, and then it didn't. And then there was another thing where it felt like something big is happening, and then it didn't.
Now
And then it was
C-3PO
like, oh,
has never
Palpatine
been a
did it all.
character that I really liked a whole lot in Star Wars. I appreciated what he was, but he was never like my favorite or anything. I even was emotional with his, and I think if they had just erased his memory
Sacrificed himself for the people that he's come to love, yeah.
and they made it
would have
worth
worked.
nothing, they erased it.
Okay, so that's enough. Let's get back into Community.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever talked about that movie.
No, we haven't. We need to talk about Star Wars some more because
Chang is talking about the families still, and he comments on the beautiful woman next to Pierce and is like, oh, looks like Pierce really paid top dollar at the escort service this time, which is cutting.
Yeah.
And then Pierce says, hey, duck sauce.
which
that
oh
was
my god,
rude,
that
which
was
is also
that's
cutting.
a bad one.
That is a bad one.
One thing I did notice though, and I don't know if this is just Chevy Chase being a weird actor, but after Chang says the Phantom Menace thing, like even the faces of like the students in the class are like, ooh, yikes.
And then there's another, was it Trump or Pierce, when he says, the women that I frequent from the escort services are nowhere near as attractive as my daughter.
What a gem of a
That
line.
may as well be our president's campaign slogan.
It's not. Do you think you
Sorry
can
to
fit
the
that on a
two
hat?
friends of ours from high school that listen to this show that are Trump supporters.
Yeah. Oh no.
But he's a
not.
fucking idiot. All right. Amber makes it clear to everyone for the millionth time that, like, technically we're X-step related. We're not related at all. Which really does immediately bring up that it's kind of fishy that she's here at all. Mm-hmm. I guess the whole family reunion angle that she thought there were going to be more people kind of makes sense. But I'm sure this isn't the first time Pierce has tried to make people come to something.
Well, and also here's another thing: she would really, realistically, have no connection to any of those other stepkids because those are all
Right.
different marriages of Pierce's. That, I mean, Pierce, clearly wasn't around when he wasn't with their mothers, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So here we're getting a classic scene, a classic moment that we were told we need to pay attention to. We were wrong, and you were right, Steven.
See, I watched the damn show.
Pierce says,
No, your mother, April.
Wanda. Her name's
Was it Wanda? Yes.
Yeah.
1 second, excuse me.
Wanda.
so you were correct, and I will take back my excluding your question counting. I got it wrong.
Thanks. I'm gonna include that in my grand. I've been keeping track of every trivia question.
It'll be on your gravestone.
Yeah. Thank you. Was right.
Here
once.
lies Stephen Baker. Was right that time. So Pierce leaves and comes up to Jeff and tells him that this girl is the last shot he has at feeling like he has a daughter or a child. And he can tell that he's striking out, and he wants Jeff's help, even though just moments ago Pierce was like, stay the f*** away from her, Now he's like, please, like, flirt with her so she'll stay. And I like Jeff's line when he's like, have you tried telling her she's prettier than a hooker? And Pierce, I know you'd never think about touching her, but maybe you could say some cool things about me. So yeah, he's proposing that Jeff plays wingman for him with his daughter, and Jeff says he won't do it. That's cues Annie, who's been like sitting there waiting for
Just waiting.
her turn to confront Jeff, and she's like, you know what, you should help Pierce. What do you have to do that's more important than help your friend? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, also, I get that they're pushing the whole, like, Annie can get Jeff to do whatever because of the doe eyes.
It's those doe
and the-
eyes. Yeah, It's like choking the little mermaid with a bike chain.
I'm into that.
Maybe it was just even something as like, well, Annie hasn't really done much this episode. We don't have any of her family coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they don't really address the fact that
They're not there.
Britta and Annie have nobody around.
There are comments we get here and there about Britta's family, but we don't meet her parents until season 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Britta walks around a corner and sees Troy pushing his Nana Barnes into the area. And they both, Nana Barnes and Troy Barnes, have these like scowls on their face. You know, Troy, 'cause he's stuck pushing his old grandma around in the grandma because she's an old grandma. And I think that and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Britta trying to make herself a part of this is one of the better things in this episode that's like kind of true to life.
I think so too, at least. And I think that what's true about it is that Britta absolutely means well.
Yes.
But she absolutely is misguided and not heeding the warnings from Troy.
And she's also like stepping in something that she doesn't belong in. Correct me if this is wrong and tell me if this is something I shouldn't say. I feel like this is something that could happen a lot with like a white woman dating and integrating herself into a African American family. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like being like, I know
agree.
how these things are supposed to work, so I know how I should relate myself, but it's really obvious what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that rang true to me here. That she'd be like, oh, I have so much respect for you. I'll do whatever you say, and get herself in way too deep.
Yeah, I think that, you know, as somebody who's been in, you know, a fairly high amount percentage-wise of interracial relationships.
Me, you're speaking about me.
Exclusively. You know, sometimes when someone tries to, you know, culturally there are just differences, you know, a lot of the time, even if you're from the same place, there are just different cultural differences. And that's the case with, you know, whoever you're in a relationship with. But I think that sometimes people try and overcorrect, or they like try and be a little too woke about things. They're like, oh,
Definitely.
I know how this works. Like, oh, I can hang, I can play
Definitely.
with it. And it's tough because sometimes you see them crash and burn. Now, luckily, my family is pretty nice and welcoming out loud. So that's...
Block 'em. Out loud.
They won't hurt your feelings to your face.
So yeah, Britta's just overly nice and is like, wow, your grandma's a knockout. I'm sure you've broken a few hearts in your time.
Which my grandmother would respond exactly the same
She's
way
like,
to this one.
tell me, how many people do you think I've laid with? What's the right answer to that question?
There's not. Britta has dug a hole that you cannot get out of.
Maybe 2, 3.
Well, I'm sure just one.
You're sure? You don't know her. You don't know her story.
Exactly. There's a no-win situation.
I feel like most people that are the really strict, don't do this, are like it because of some things that they did.
I think a lot of times that's the case.
Not always. Maybe it's just ingrained in family. But I don't know. Troy keeps giving Britta this look of like, I told you, you should have gotten into this. And Britta's like, you know what? I've offended you. I'm sorry. I respect you. Is there anything I can get for you? And this is when we get this whole thing that all the grandmother wants out of Britta to meet respect with respect is a Nintendo Switch.
That's it. And what's really cool is like, you know, this was some pretty major product placement for Nintendo, because I think at this point, you know, the Switch wasn't even
10
out
years,
yet.
8 years before it was released.
So, you know, really building the hype early on. And this
Really.
grandma, she just wanted it, you know.
She's just a
She
hip grandma.
wanted
You know,
a
the
Switch.
Wii was cool with old people, so she assumed the Switch would be the next step.
Yeah.
Do
Britta just
people,
couldn't follow
is that a
through.
real thing? Do people actually still have family members that are like, go pick out the stick that I'm going to beat your ass with?
Yes.
God, I feel like that. Am I too soft, or is that like not okay, or does it
here's-
depend on the context?
I think it depends on the context. I think that when you go pick a Switch, it's a lot more of like that
Think
older
about what you've done.
generation. Well, because it's a mental tactic, because it's a fear game. It's like
Right.
literally you're picking your own poison. Because if you pick one that's like too big, you're gonna really be hurt. If you pick one that's too small, you're gonna have to go pick another one, or then they will pick for you. And it's really not a great situation.
There's
Now, like I
strategy
said,
involved
I
in
learned
Switch
early
picking.
on that I didn't like being spanked for misbehaving. So I decided,
You liked it for other reasons.
of course. So I decided that I wasn't going to get myself in a situation where I was in such trouble with my mom
that she would do that.
Exactly.
I feel like for me
I
to
learned that
physically
line pretty
hit
early.
my kid, they would have had to have done something bad, and they would have had to have done something several times. You know what I mean? I don't think I'd just be like, that's it, you done.
I'm knocking them little out.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing as, like, I don't know, there's the disposition of, like, hey, Johnny boy, you stop doing that, okay? I'm going to count.
What's your safe word?
1,
I said
2,
apple. That's
2
your
and
behavior
3
word.
quarters, 2 and .798634. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I think
am I
I'll be
triggering
different
you,
when it's my
Johnny?
own
Oh,
kid,
never
probably.
mind. Just go back and play Pokemon Go. I'm sorry for triggering you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my fear is that like my little sister like has had me wrapped around her finger like forever, and I don't think I could ever like get really mad at her like that. So I'm worried that my daughters I will not be able to discipline in that way, but my sons, we have to do what you
Right.
got to do. Put a little
Britta
healthy
says-
fear in them.
Britta says she'll just do it after Troy explains to her what a Switch is. She's like, you see the change in her face, but she never stops smiling. She's like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'll go do that. And Troy's like, remember what you said to me. This is your fault. After that, we cut to Dean Chang. Dean Chang. That'd be the day.
Okay.
After this, we cut
Wow.
to Dean Pelton talking to Chang and his brother, who is a rabbi. It's like, Senior Chang, Rabbi Chang, nice meeting you. And to both of you, sayonara.
The dean doing his best to cover all cultural fronts.
He touches both of them, as he always has to, when he leaves a situation and leaves. And Rabbi Chang says to Senior Chang, do you know how ridiculous it sounds, you being senior? Which is totally just to cut it. Like how they're both in pretty non-traditional. I don't know. It's kind of a light joke. I don't know. What, someone who's Asian can't teach Spanish or be Jewish?
Nope.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for...
It's in
thanks
the
for-
rules.
Thanks for
If
letting
you
me know.
read the Greendale's very real college guidelines, it's in there.
Yeah, the Chang stuff doesn't do a lot for me. Chang, they didn't have to do this. Maybe it was because they hadn't given Ken a lot to do lately. I still think they probably didn't know exactly what they wanted to do with the Chang character, and truly, I don't think they ever knew what they wanted to do with the Chang character.
It changed quite literally by the day.
But Chang having like a normal job and family life definitely isn't where it went, so
No.
it feels out of place.
Yeah, I think that if they were gonna do stuff with the brother, it would have been funny to bring him back later on, like when he has Changnesia or something, and maybe
Yeah.
his rabbi brother is gonna try and get through to him, which would
And
be
honestly,
funny.
maybe they do.
They might. I don't remember a whole lot of specific details from that time.
So
'Cause it
now
wasn't
we
my
cut
favorite.
to the like picnic gathering outside for family day, and Pierce literally shakes the handful of peanuts out of Amber's hand
This
and
was
says,
probably my
Amber
favorite.
alert.
Yeah, that's my favorite line of his of the episode. Amber alert! You're allergic to peanuts.
And your name is Amber. It was very funny.
I just like that he's like trying to tell somebody like you are allergic to peanuts.
She's like, no, I'm not. I would probably know if I was. He's like, oh, that might be a different step kit. You think? That was a funny moment. I'll give him that one. A lot of the stuff that happens in this outdoor setting, I don't hate. This is the chunk of the episode that works for me. Not so much this part. Amber's about to leave until Jeff shows up with 3 beers and wants to talk to Amber about the cool things that Pierce has done this school year. He mentions Pierce takes on the school bully like he did at Christmas time. He mentions Pierce getting kicked out of a band like he did with Vaughn. And I don't know, it's nice of Jeff to do this. The part that happens outside that I'm more involved with is like Shirley's family intermingling with Abed's family. And the difference there, but how Shirley is able to do something nice for the family that she doesn't quite understand through this. Abed is explaining why she wears a burqa, why his cousin wears a burqa. It's a way for women to express their modesty, like turtlenecks, like we mentioned. And Shirley's kids, who are maybe a little bit younger than Abed's cousin, they wanna play with her. You know, they're all just kids, and they're at an event where there are things for kids to go do. And Abed's dad is immediately like, shut this down. And then their whole family kind of starts like arguing in Arabic, and Shirley's family just watches. Eventually, Shirley says, "Hey, this is getting a little heated. Can you tell me what's happening?" They call him a pig anus. And Abed translates. I really like this scene when Abed's like translating what's happening for the other people.
I do too.
I thought it was situated pretty well. And yeah, she's just trying to explain to her father that she wants to go bounce in the bouncy house and that she feels like she's old enough to go do that. What do you think for this, strict father, Gooby?
Yeah.
What do you think the issue is?
I
Not
think,
trusting other kids, just wanting to always be in control of what they're doing.
Well, here's the thing: is he says, your father would kill me if you got hurt or anything, right? So he's watching his niece here. He has her, and he's trying to keep her, safe. But he's definitely overbearing, overprotective, which we've already have seen from him, and which we know, culturally tends to be more of the norm. It's a lot more kind of strict, overbearing, especially with their daughters.
Right. Again, go watch Rami. I've still been watching it, and it's a great depiction of these kinds of struggles.
Yeah, I really want to start watching that.
Finish your thought, though.
But I think my big issue with him is, regardless of the argument between him and his niece, I have more of an issue with him attacking Shirley as a mother because of his own frustrations with his, lack of ability to control his niece.
Yeah, Shirley may be misunderstanding of how to, handle herself around people who are quote-unquote different from herself. But, yeah, Gooby's kind of mean.
Yeah.
And, he brought this girl to, a fun thing.
And then won't let her do
Yeah,
anything.
what was he thinking? Yeah. The kids, this is the beginning of a scam that they've come together with. The kids, spill something, so it gets on Gooby's shirt. And I don't know if this makes me a bad person to say, but when Gooby stands up to start calling Shirley a bad mother, he makes this noise. And I don't know if this is something in Arabic, so I'm truly sorry if this is inappropriate to be saying this, but I thought it was so funny. It sounds like he goes, kaka! It sounds like he's like a rooster. And then he starts yelling at Shirley, "You're a bad mother. Control your children." I had to go back to my car and get my emergency shirt. And I don't even like that shirt. And it's Shirley's fault because she's a bad mother. That's funny.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty unnecessary. So I'm glad that you have to wear your shirt you don't like, Gooby.
Back to Jeff and Pierce and Amber. It's still going the same as it was a couple seconds ago. Jeff is telling stories about Pierce. And Amber leaves to go to the bathroom. Before she does, she calls Pierce's stepdad and kisses him on the cheek. We know where this is going, that this is all a scam. Amber is here for a reason, trying to get something out of Pierce.
What are you doing, stepbrother? I'm sorry.
Oh my god. Are we starting a...
I'm sorry.
I don't want to comment on it.
You can cut that.
If you want to learn more about that, just check Steven's search history.
You can follow my anime Twitter at...
Do you think that Amber... Okay, so Amber made it sound like she was leaving earlier. Do you think she was just saying that so Pierce would maybe bring up, "Oh, no, you should stay. I have something for you."
Yep.
Or do you think she's on to what he's trying to do through Jeff right now? What do you
think that she... Well, because I'm not sure exactly when he gives her the money, but I think it might have already happened at this point.
It might have even been like, "Hey, if you come to this thing, I've got a check for you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, she, before coming to this was like, "Hey, I'm having a little trouble with tuition, blah, blah, blah." And so she was probably trying to leave then, and he's like, "No, you should come to the fair later." And maybe he even said, "Oh, Jeff will be there. We're going to hang out and..."
Well, what happens right here, things are going well for Pierce and Amber, so Pierce is like, "Jeff, I need you to scram. I need you to get out of here."
Skedaddle.
And he does that kind of tropey thing of, "And I'm going to beg you to stay, but no matter what I say, you have to leave, okay?" And then he was like, "Well, you can just leave now. Cut our work in half."
Cut our work in half.
And Jeff has a sort of nice moment. He gives Pierce a genuine smile and says, "Good luck."
And I think he
wishing
means
well
it.
for them. I don't think he's just here to get some action, but if action is involved, if he does get to be back with Booty, he'll go for it.
Well, and specifically, he even said to Annie, he considers this girl at least somewhat, off limits right now, because he does feel like, okay, Pierce said it's a no, so why would I waste my time messing with her,
I'm going to have to keep being around Pierce at least for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
After that conversation, now Jeff is coming back inside. He's near the study room, and he runs into Amber's. And Amber's like, "Oh, you're leaving?" Jeff says, "My girlfriend is pregnant." But Pierce said you're gay. He...
Yep. As the sunrise, and I'm deeply ashamed.
I actually, Jeff is really funny in this episode.
Yeah, Jeff is pretty funny in this one. And it's very strange that even though he's clearly making that up, that as soon as he says, I'm gay and I'm deeply ashamed, she starts kissing him. If I had a nickel for every time that happened to me,
you would have exactly...
I'd have a nickel or two from back in the day.
It's a hell of a pickup line. I think that I'm gay and I'm ashamed works just as well as from Highlander, I'm Colin McLeod of the Can McLeod, I'm 400 years old and I cannot die. Works the same. You get laid immediately after.
Here around the Midwest, it is a great pickup line because we're all gay and ashamed.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, you too?
And we just want someone to love us. Yep. You too? Definitely. Love that band. So Jeff is doing what he promised he wouldn't do, and he's kissing Pierce's stepdaughter. I don't care. Recapping this episode, I don't care. None of it matters. None of this is interesting. I don't care. I'm sorry. If you do care, I don't care.
Well, I really think that she is what awakened Jeff's inner, care. I think
people are like, you don't care? That's endgame. Jeff and Amber are endgame. They better bring her back for the movie. That's what it's going to be. They finally make the movie. Everyone wants Jeff and Annie to get together, but it's going to be Jeff is married to Katherine McPhee, and Pierce's legacy lives on through them.
Yikes. They're going to have a son and name him Pierce.
So after the commercial, they're still making out, and after a long kiss, Jeff is then like, this might be wrong. This might not be the right thing to do. Have you ever been in a situation like that?
Yes.
Where it's like long after, I don't know, you're like, we'll see where this goes.
Well, you see, Zach,
I probably shouldn't do this.
There's this thing that, they talk about that's called post-nut clarity. And,
Jesus. No, I feel like for me, and it has nothing, oh God, we're going to go here. It has nothing to do with the person that I'm with, but sometimes, sure, we'll call it post-nut clarity. The feeling is of disgust.
With yourself.
Yeah, it's like, who am I? What have I become?
It's like, what
I'm
did I
an
do?
animal.
I am worse than scum.
I'm saying more. Yeah, have you been in a situation where your judgment is clouded to where you let the deed happen a little bit, even
more than it should have?
I shouldn't have done this in the first place. We shouldn't be kissing right now.
Absolutely.
I think Jeff is right there. We could write this off as douchebag Jeff, but
I think it's
as a single man, sometimes beautiful woman is in front of you, starts kissing you.
Well, and here's what I'll say.
This goes.
I've been in a situation similar to Jeff's, where immediately after a breakup, I tried to rebound maybe a little too quick, and I was like, maybe not.
And being that rebound for you was devastating and embarrassing, Steven. But yeah, Amber kind of has a good point when she's like, what, you won't kiss me because Pierce doesn't want you to, but Pierce divorced my mom for our housekeeper, but he's so strict about who can touch me.
Which really is a great point that she's making. Because
she is a grown woman who is in no way related to Pierce.
Not at all.
But that's not really the point. The point is that Jeff and Pierce are friends and connected to each other on a more regular basis than Amber and Jeff are likely to be, and he's going to have to keep seeing them and hear about it, regardless of the logistics.
Yeah.
If Pierce is upset about it, he's upset about it.
And as much as Jeff downplays their relationship, at this point in the show, Jeff and Pierce are friends.
Yeah, on a couple occasions, they've had to come to each other for that talk when they're down in the dumps.
Mm-hmm.
They almost start to kiss again, but Pierce is back, so they stop. And Pierce just goes, "Why are you here, Jeff?" I go to school here. And so now we get this scene. Pierce is going to have to work harder than he thought he would, where he describes the Pictionary tournament to his stepdaughter, and they have this whole really awkward where it's like, oh, Jeff, come. I can't. Please come. I can't. Please. And he's like, I can't, because they decided this ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And then we see the turn when Amber's like, well, maybe I should leave, which is douchey as hell. And Pierce is like, Jeff, stay. For real. I think you have to stay. Please.
Do you really feel that way? I think you have to.
I think that's kind of what this date was like, the Tinder date in college when I had you come with me. It's like, Steven, just come and make sure it's okay, and then you can leave because things will be cool. And then they weren't particularly cool. It's like, Steven, sticking around, please? Yes? Please?
I would, you know what I really would love to see, but also would hate to see,
Okay.
is just like a recording of that.
Ugh, why?
Because it was probably
So you can
so
laugh at my
awkward.
expense? Of
yeah.
course it was. I was in no position to be talking to a woman at that point.
No, she was nice though.
Yeah, she's married and pregnant now.
Nice, aren't they all?
Aren't they all? What? But that's Steven's type.
It is.
You got it all this week, folks. I hope you liked this one as much as last week's. We got 9/11 talk.
Whereas last week is a very great episode for first time listeners, this one is not.
Yeah, just because I said we're not going to say uncensored doesn't mean we're going to let a lot of stuff slide. So Jeff agrees to stay. He's going to go to the Pictionary tournament because Pierce isn't giving him any other situation, and it's becoming this weird thing of like, how far is Pierce going to let this go to get the attention he wants out of his stepdaughter? You know, is he going to literally like be like, okay, go off with each other just so she sticks around? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it's getting to the point of Pierce's desperation that it's like, all right, buddy, let's slow it down.
Troy and Britta now are outside. They're walking around. Troy's like, hey, what are you doing? And Britta's sticking to it. She's looking for a switch for Nana, which, by the way, where is Nana at this point? While they're
I'm assuming just
outside?
Sitting somewhere still in her chair, unable to move and unhappy about it.
She probably started like napping, like a unstoppable nap, and Troy's like, oh, this is my chance. I gotta go. Troy has this nice speech. Troy doesn't get to shine a lot in this episode, but he has a lot of funny standout moments.
Yeah.
Troy's like, you don't have to pretend to be nice to my mean old grandma. And Britta can't drop the facade. She thinks she has to make it clear that she thinks it's cool and she respects it, when I'm sure she's annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit annoying.
Yeah, Britta's trying her best, but Troy gave her several outs.
Yeah, and Troy gets this, this is his great speech of, my mom told me there'd be white people that did this. With the pocket watches and coffee grinders and pretending to be into steamboats. And I can relate to that one a little bit. When we went to Disney World, there's a real steamboat that you can go ride that takes like a lap around this like lake area. And so preparing to go, we were all like, yeah, let's go ride the steamboat. That looks so cool. It'll be really fun. But we're pretending to be interested because when we were at Disney World and there were rides to ride, we were never like, now's the time to go ride the steamboat.
Yeah, no.
Troy's like, this is real life. And she's gonna beat you with a stick.
And I mean, think about how many of these beatings Troy has been on the receiving end of. With how aloof Troy is, the amount of times that he's probably gotten into trouble with his Nana.
Britta finds the perfect one. It's long and looks like it'd be one of those where you can hear it through the wind as it
that
hits
was
you.
A menacing choice.
And Troy's like, very good, very cool choice. It's gonna hurt a lot, I bet. Do you think that Britta thinks that there's a chance that this is gonna end with Troy's Nana being like, I respect you?
I think that Britta,
to get her ass whooped?
I think Britta is expecting something a lot less than either her to be joking. Or
maybe
her
parents spanked her a couple of times and they were more like the Connie Pruitt spank than a Nana Barnes spank.
Yeah. I think that Britta really does not realize what she's gotten herself into here.
Yeah, when this grandma is literally like, Britta is a kid that's not well behaved, and kids that are well behaved are gonna get whooped.
Nana was like, this girl said 3 things to me and I hated all of them, so I'm gonna beat her ass.
Now we're back to the Abed-Shirley family dynamic, and Shirley's kids are gone. And then Abed's dad shows up at the same time and takes it as a chance to be like, oh, what a surprise, Shirley, you lost them. Abed's just so plain and calm through all this, and is like, oh, no, they're playing hide and seek. And Shirley says, okay, where? And Abed's like, that's not really how it works.
Which is a great response from Abed.
It's this really nice turn of events where Gooby is mad at Shirley for not knowing where her not so well-behaved kids are, but he doesn't know where the niece that he's supposed to be taking care of right now actually is, because Shirley's kids are good and saw that Abed's cousin was someone who needed to go have some fun, and they stepped in in a really intelligent way, kind of.
Yeah.
Because what's happening here is that the kids are stacked inside of her burqa.
Well, and I'll say this for this storyline, I think that it, whether it was super intentional or not, it kind of just rings true that you're not taught, or like you are taught hate and discrimination and things like that, because even Shirley and Gooby, I don't think either of them are outright hateful people, but they both have kind of prejudices and a little bit of feelings towards one another that are a little unspoken, but that kind of ring true in how short a fuse they have with one another. But the kids don't feel that at all. They're just kids that want to play, and when they see like a different kid that wants to play and can't, they're like, oh well, let's help them.
Absolutely. You can tell that even though Shirley has her misconceptions about people that are different, how she should treat them, she definitely hasn't passed on any kind of hate to her kids. Their kids are innocent until they're shown not to be.
Yeah.
And Shirley explains to Gooby, she says some of the wrong things. She comments on the burqa, but she's like, I let my kids be kids. I don't treat them like I'm a jail warden.
Yeah.
And Gooby just is confrontational about it. And I get that to an extent. Shirley doesn't necessarily have any place telling people how to raise their kids.
No.
But Gooby's questioning her parenthood when she's already, a little bit insecure about it because of not seeing her kids so much. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting conflict here, and it's the bit of this episode that has the most meat to it, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that especially like you were talking about earlier, when you are a mother, especially a single mother, going to school and trying to raise your kids, I mean, the amount of guilt that she probably already is battling within herself, thinking like, oh, what can I do to be there more for my kids, and then to have somebody call you a bad mother in front of your children, that's a low blow.
The way that Shirley reacts when she realizes what's going on and that her kids are in the burqa and that Gooby doesn't know it yet, and she gets what they're doing, the way that she reacts to it and doesn't let it go, like, Yvette does a really good job here.
Yeah.
You can tell that she's proud of her kids and knows exactly what's happening. Shirley makes Gooby go get napkins, and Gooby's like, oh, so now I'm the napkin man, so she can discuss this with her children. It's pretty funny. Yeah. She sees that Abed's cousin is in fact bouncing in the bounce house, and that's all she wanted.
That's all she wanted to do.
It's one of the only nice moments of this episode. And now we cut to one of the least nice touchy-feely moments of the episode. God. But one of the funniest.
Yeah.
It's the Pictionary tournament.
And so going into this was one of the episodes that I think I remembered the most.
Because of something like this?
Because of a few things. But I vividly remembered this whole scene, and I did not laugh any less.
Yeah, this is a really funny scene. One of the funniest scenes of the episode, and a scene that would be great to put on to like a compilation of funniest community bits, like out of context.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean the episode surrounding it is as good as this joke is. First, we see Amber. She is drawing, it's like a potato laid down flat with like a squiggly line cutting it down the middle and a smiley face. Pierce keeps guessing circle, smiling, happy face, smiling sideways vagina. And he's like, did you hear me say circle? And then Jeff speaks up and is like, that's a happy face. That's a clam. Happy as a clam. And it's right. And I like how even though it's right, and this isn't a funny joke, but it made me laugh a little bit, how Pierce is like, what a gay guess to Jeff.
Idiot. Yeah, that
like,
that did make me laugh.
It was right.
Because it's such a Pierce, like, I'm mad because I'm being outshined by Jeff.
And then it's Pierce's turn to draw. And here's something I want to comment on really quick. Before Pierce starts drawing, and we all know where this is going, he thinks he's drawing one thing, but what he is drawing is a swastika. It's like the bathroom stalls at our high school all over again.
Exactly like them. With just as much aggressive circling around the swastika.
Starburns' delivery when he starts the timer, he's like, go!
Go! Yeah.
I really like that. But, okay, so there's a shot of the card that Pierce is reading off of. Windmill was blue.
Blue, okay.
I don't see a category at all. It's just blue, and it has a picture of a windmill. I feel like they put in this shot of Pierce reading the word windmill so the swastika joke would cut a little bit less deep.
Yeah.
So you can see where he's coming from.
But how much funnier would it have been if you didn't know what he was trying to draw?
I think it would be funnier if he just started drawing it, and then the punchline was it was supposed to be a windmill. You know, like this is like, we know it's the windmill is the setup and the punchline is what he draws. I think it would have been a little bit funnier the other way around. But it's still a very funny scene. You know, he just straight up draws a swastika. And Amber's like, you got to give us a little bit more than that. So he starts circling it, and then it looks like a swastika band. And then he just keeps circling it and circling it and circling it. And my favorite part of this, I think that makes me laugh the hardest, is how distraught Jeff looks. And he's like, please stop circling.
And when you said, I didn't think about this until you started talking about it, but it really kind of does feel like they put that scene in afterwards, because the cop even has a line later on that kind of is the reveal of it being windmill, and like a really funny type of thing. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. They must have added that in because somebody was like,
Seems like a network note, or like they knew they'd get a network note, but they wanted to keep the joke, so they added something to soften it. And then, of course, Rabbi Chang walks up to see him drawing a swastika, and the damning line when Pierce says to their, questioning what he's drawing, he's like, "You're supposed to know, stupid."
oh,
Not because of the Jewish thing, but because of, it's a game.
It's
and you're
a game.
You're supposed to guess and know, but it just sounds and looks so bad. But it's very funny. I find stuff like this that's dark and shouldn't be really laughed at. I find it very funny, which I'm sure you've picked up a little bit from the way that we talk. That's a really funny line. Just don't be Nazis, guys. Don't be a Nazi.
Just literally don't be a Nazi. I don't know why that's so hard for people.
It's funny because Nazis are bad, yeah?
Yeah.
When nobody's...
It's not funny because we like them. It's funny because it's
Nazis.
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that 10 years ago, it was so crazy to think that
like you can make a joke like this because it's something that's so old and dead, but now it's like Nazis are a thing again.
Yeah. So just quit being Nazis.
So if you're listening to this, maybe I'll cue up a little bit of the More You Know music again.
There we go.
Friends, if you're listening to us on this fine day and you in any way describe yourself as a Nazi or a neo-Nazi or anything thereof, please, and don't take this lightly, eat shit, you piece of human garbage.
Yeah, for those out there who are
Wind
really
chimes.
struggling with their own Nazism, kindly go yourself. Thank you.
Yeah.
A message from our sponsors.
Yeah, Nazi, your way all the way back to Knott's Berry Farm.
Oh, no.
The home of the Nazis. Okay, so nobody guesses Pierce's thing because nobody wants to say it, and I think they all know that Pierce is confused.
Yeah.
And so Chang says on behalf of his brother, "Don't worry, I'll take care of this." And then we cut to both of them on the couch with bruises and scrapes, and Pierce has a butterfly Band-Aid on.
Chang's shirt is like all the way open.
Thank God. Looking great.
Yeah, that sheen.
So, and then we get the police officer, Officer Kukowski again. He's always a funny Greendale face to see. And it's hard to like laugh at jokes about cops right now because I feel pretty strongly on what side I am in the way we're rethinking police right now.
Yeah.
But I do believe that Officer Kukowski was one of the good ones.
He is.
He's like, I got to take all this information. I think they're going to drop charges against each other. I don't think they're going to do anything. But he wants to take all the information, and he wants people to know that he's not going to stop until the Pictionary bans the word windmill. See, that's the work our want to be good police officers should be doing.
Yeah, that's who we need at the front lines, because he is trying to make change in the world. He's trying to stop the violence.
So Jeff and Amber take this as their excuse to leave while Pierce is kind of caught up in this other thing. They say they're going to go get coffee. Pierce is like, "Is coffee code for sex?" Nobody really responds, except the cop is like, "Is it?"
Is it?
Everyone's like, "No."
Yikes.
And now we cut to the set piece that is probably the most memorable thing from this episode. Troy and Britta walk in to find Nana Barnes in a classroom, and Britta's bringing the switch that she's chosen. And she's just trying to stay positive, hoping, I imagine, that something's going to change. Nana's like, "Let me see it." And when Britta hands it to her, she like tests it in the air a couple times. She's like, "This'll do." And Britta's like, "Let me have it." Like me when Steve and I spend together. But Britta says, "Let me have it," and sticks her hand out. She was thinking she was just going to slap her on the wrist this whole time. And Nana Barnes is like, "I'm not a nun, bend over," and goes to town.
This scene, I started laughing. Like, I remember this scene very well. It's one that, like, in terms of my favorite Community scenes, this one is pretty high up there. Mostly because of Troy. because I think his screaming is just so good. But
there's a lot of this that works. Like everything about the visual of the scene works. That's so ridiculous.
The angle that they use, it's like
just,
Troy looking over his shoulder, horrified.
the severity of the ridiculousness just grows as the scene keeps going.
The unwavering intensity with
Britta
Nana's
bends
eyes.
over. Troy says, "What are you doing?" And Nana with so much edge is like, she's respecting her elders.
Force of a god.
See, Troy, did you think I was a hypocrite? And then Nana keeps letting her have it, and Britta's just screaming in pain and like really having trouble. And Troy just winces at each smack and moves his shoulders, and he's like hiding so he can't not look, but he's also trying to look.
Yeah.
Gotta love the way he yells, "I don't understand you, Britta."
I don't understand you at
Then
all.
a joke that was already perfect gets even more perfect when Jeff and Pierce's stepdaughter, who he's not supposed to be making out with, burst into the room to try to make out here to see Troy crying over Britta getting spanked by an old lady. Moments like this, even if this is my least favorite episode of Community we've covered so far, this shows that Community doesn't do anything bad.
No.
Even the episodes that I just said I don't care about 1,000 times, they do something that's like one for the history books. They come up with a joke that's hilarious that I've never seen before and that kills me.
Yeah, it's so funny. And then when Jeff finally does leave, Troy gives us a couple more great lines with the "She's had enough."
Oh, man. What a good scene. So after the first room didn't work out, Jeff and Amber make their way to a like janitor's closet kind of. Jeff says a really creepy line when he's like, "Let's focus on you, the forbidden fruit."
Yuck.
Yeah. That is the ex-stepdaughter of a casual acquaintance.
Ugh.
Just we get it. You don't have to keep saying it. And they start to keep kissing, and a piece of paper falls out of Amber's pocket, and it's a check from Pierce for $25,000, which is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And, it's one of those things where it drops out of her pocket, Jeff goes to pick it up for her, and it's a piece of paper. You look at it,
Yeah.
And he questions her on it, says, "Why do you have this check?" And it says that it's tuition for fashion school, or that's what Amber says. But earlier, we all heard that Pierce said she was in photography school. So it's very clear that the story isn't real.
Yeah.
That it's made up. And this is a moment that really shows that Jeff does have some chivalry, even if he acts based on his sexual interests sometimes. They start kissing again, and she's like, "Haha, you caught me." And Jeff is like, "No, I can't do this. You're just taking advantage of Pierce, and you don't feel bad about it."
Yeah.
And she calls him desperate and stupid, and says a really like villainy thing that no woman I bet would actually say when she's like, "Well, do you want to be a good friend or do you want to get with me?" I don't know.
You got two choices, pretty boy.
It kind of works that I'm not crazy about the way Katherine McPhee delivers any of her lines in this entire episode. Mm-hmm. Honestly, until this big reveal at the end, I feel like then she kind of eats up the villainous turn of events. It kind of makes sense that she's acting so stoic and so like removed, I guess, because she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she doesn't give a shit.
It wasn't an intentional acting performance, but I guess it works.
It ended up fitting the character, I think, at the end, especially. But she definitely does give more of a performance once she starts with like the bad guy role.
After this happens, Jeff leaves the library area and runs into Annie, so we can be reminded that she is still on this show, even if she kind of takes it easy this week. Maybe she was filming Mad Men that week.
Must be it. She was really needing some Dom Draper after Abed last week.
Jeff kind of thanks her for saying, "You know what, I did what you said. I tried to help Pierce, and I found out that Pierce's stepdaughter is grifting him, and that he thinks it's for her school, but she's stealing his money. And now Annie gets to help him with this." And this is a scene where you see why these characters work well together. Annie's someone that Jeff can confide in about things like this and get advice from her that he doesn't make fun of or take lightly. He listens to what she has to say about it. Jeff is in a bit of a pickle because he can't just go tell Pierce this, because there's no way to tell him without it being obvious that they have slept together.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to tell Pierce. You've
Yeah.
got to do it.
Yeah. I feel like you
Jeff
do.
kind of has an ain't I a scamp look on his face while Annie's like beating on him, like, you did not. You didn't do it. And Jeff is like, yeah, I did it with her, but not twice. I wanted to do it twice. A little bit douchey, but whatever. I'll give him a pass.
Yeah. Because here's what I'll say. Because I was going to ask you what your thoughts were on Jeff sleeping with her. Because, let's play devil's advocate here for a second. She is the ex-stepdaughter of a friend. I'll go all out and say friend,
Yeah.
Should he have slept with her? Probably not.
No, but
Was any harm done?
I don't think it's something, I don't think it's something that can't be moved on from in he and Pierce's friendship.
Agreed.
And I also think because of this information that he's learned because of it, it wasn't all for naught.
No, not at all.
Annie kind of questions Jeff and is like, oh, how could you do this? You're quicker than bacteria. And I don't know. He just doesn't want to hurt Pierce by telling him all this, but Annie tells him that you have to. She's taking advantage of him.
Yeah.
And it's just what you got to do. And Jeff says exactly what you kind of said. And he's like, when you think about it, nobody's getting hurt. But he knows that's not true.
Yeah.
He says, Pierce is getting a daughter, Amber's getting an allowance, we already talked about it. But I think Jeff has to know that after she walks out with that money, she's gone. Pierce does not get a daughter out of this unless she needs money again.
Yeah, and he knows that.
And
he's trying to
Jeff
justify
brings
himself.
up the point. He's just justifying it, but he's like, and Pierce isn't the best person. He does bad stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. Maybe this isn't the worst thing ever. But I don't know. Annie, she has those doe eyes, and she makes it very clear when something is, immoral. And her moral compass is really firm and not, biased. So Jeff, when Jeff sees through Annie that something's wrong, he knows that it's really wrong.
Yeah. He knows that, okay, this is actually objectively bad.
Yeah, she even says,
Well, it sounds like you've got it all figured out, so why are you talking to me about it?
Because you're,
A decent person.
maybe.
And you knew that talking to me about it would make you feel like a bad friend. And you wanted to feel like a bad friend because you want to be a good friend.
You really suck, you know that?
And I feel like I've been in situations like that before. You tell your friends what's going on and you know the answer, but you need to be confirmed the answer.
Yeah, you want that little extra push.
Yeah. A little cute. A little drop of cute Jeff and Annie sweetness in there.
Aww.
Still don't ship them.
Nope.
Nice try.
You thought
Now
you
we're
had us.
In the cafeteria common area, Shirley's kids are playing with guns again, and this is when he's like, get you and your brother some ding-dongs, calm down. Abed comes in the room, says what's up, and thanks Shirley for what they did for Abra to have a day of fun. I don't know, it's a nice moment to cap off the one story of this episode that is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Shirley says to Abed, thank you for coming up with this idea. It was a great idea. And Abed says, it wasn't me, it was your kids. And they're great kids, and you should be proud of them, which is always a good thing to hear as a parent.
Yeah, I like hearing
Especially
it.
from someone like Abed, who's becoming a friend, and you respect the opinion. And your motherhood has been questioned. And you're being reminded that you're not a bad mom.
And I thought that moment was really, really, really sweet. And
Really
I think
sweet.
Abed knew how much it would mean to Shirley for him to say that too.
This episode does have some of the best Shirley stuff we've seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good chunk of episodes since she's gotten to shine at all.
Yeah.
And I still don't think she's my MVP this week either, but she puts up a case.
Mm-hmm.
Abed and Shirley have a hug, and it's nice. And then Shirley's kids are good, but they're crazy, because this is when we reveal the kids got stuck, or one of the kids got stuck in the vending machine while they were trying to go get a snack and calm down.
Which, how the
And
hell
Ha-
do people do that?
Shirley has this look of disdain on her face, and Abed's just like, ding-dongs are my favorite. I love Abed.
He's great.
Now we cut to the dance at the end. It's the gala dance. I assume this is the event that we were asked about. Troy walks up to Britta, and they just kind of end their story, too. They talk about it. Britta's like, Nana's a monster, you're right. And Nana's right there being wheeled over by someone who was doing it for Troy, I guess, and hears her. It's like, what did you say?
Her suit game is so on point here.
On the commentary, when she came in wearing that suit, Dan Harmon was like, oh, look, it's Chevy's pantsuit from a few weeks back.
That's funny.
But now Britta, now that she's been beat by this woman, she feels like she can say what she's thinking, and she says, I said you were a monster, Nana. And you said Troy was right, Nana says. Britta's not in trouble. Now Troy's in trouble. Now he's getting a spanking thanks to Britta. Have you ever gotten in trouble with your parents or grandparents because of something your friend said?
I got in trouble in school because of something my friend said, but never necessarily like, oh, actually, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything you want to share, or is it better left off pod?
Probably better left off pod. It was more so like, sometimes when your friends are talking to your mother with you, you'll be recounting something and they share
and
a little
she'll
more
be like, you said you
information.
were doing this then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
or
I
like
get
they'll
that.
be like, oh yeah, I remember when we did this, and she'll be like, you did what? Luckily, most of that has happened though as an adult because I've been more
able to explain yourself or get yourself out of it.
Yeah, or even
Yeah.
more just like I've been like not worried about her being upset about something I did, 4 years
When
ago.
you were a kid.
Yeah.
I get that too. That's now that I have a different relationship with my mother where I can kind of sneak in some stuff that I've done every
Yup.
now and then. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was doing all this shit when, never mind. That's for another time. I know my mom doesn't listen to the podcast, so I could probably get away with it. Amber shows up at the dance, which is an interesting choice. She should have just left. Now that someone knew, her jig was up. She should have left.
Mm-hmm.
But she comes in, and she's still in that villainous, like, trying to come on to Jeff, trying to talk bad about Pierce, and expecting Jeff to go along with it, because Jeff might have some of those vibes. He was willing to hook up with Amber, even though he knew he probably shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff is like, no, what you're going to do is you're going to tear up that check, and you're going to go have a dance with your stepdad. And Amber throws it back on him and says, well, if I go tell him everything, guess who he'll forgive? Which is a point.
Mm-hmm. Now, a line that she also said that kind of was gross is when she first comes in, she says something about
Hey,
logging
stranger.
some more time with Daddy Warbucks.
Yeah.
Gross.
And Jeff says something much better. He says, I'd rather be the bad guy than watch you siphon him, which is always the right decision. Good job, Jeff.
Good job, Jeff.
It took him a second to get there, like it always does, but he's making the right choice. Amber says that she's going to leave, and if the check clears, she won't make any more problems. She'll stay gone. And Jeff, obviously, that's not good enough. He says astutely, come back whenever you want. Pierce needs this. Mm-hmm. And be good to him when you come around, because I'll be around and I'll be watching you. Good Jeff. This is a good guy Jeff.
Good guy
For
Jeff,
sure.
for sure, moment, yeah.
Like, you can be a stepdaughter or not. And Amber takes one look at Pierce being a doof and says, no, I'm going to take the money and I'm going to leave. Bye. And she does.
Yeah, she kind of... And here's what I'll say. She doesn't really have a whole lot of reason to have any loyalty or, like, kindness in her heart towards Pierce.
Right.
Because he did cheat on her mother with their housekeeper and leave them, So I get her maybe not liking him, and I honestly kind of understand her taking the $25,000 and going. I'm not saying she's in the right.
I understand why you wouldn't want Pierce to be someone in your life as well.
But I don't think that it's, okay to take advantage of somebody. But
it's hard to feel totally bad for Pierce because he does bring some of this on himself, but this episode does make you feel for the man at least a little bit.
At least a little bit, yeah.
Jeff goes back to Pierce, and Pierce is asking, have you seen Amber? Jeff struggles for a second and says, Pierce, I got to tell you something. Pierce knows what's happening. She's not coming. Jeff's like, yeah, she's not coming. And Pierce knew all along what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. He said, I wrote her a pretty big check this morning. I had a feeling she might take it and run. And Jeff, even as a lawyer, he's like, do you want me to help you cancel that check and keep it from going anywhere?
Yeah.
And Pierce is even, I don't know, maybe a little bit more paternal than anyone gives him credit for, because even when your kids take advantage of you, you want to help them succeed.
Mm-hmm.
He says, hell, she earned it. And he says to Jeff,
You're lucky, Jeff. It's not too late for you. Have a family. Share your life. That and understanding computers are two things you just can't knock out at the end.
Chevy didn't have a great week this week acting-wise, but his delivery of that last speech I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Jeff gives him something a little bit back. He kind of shows Pierce that, you know what, like, people call you in our circle when things are going, and maybe it's not a traditional family, but you've got a family growing here.
Yeah.
You're sharing your life. If you have friends, you have family. And I
Which is really
tend to
nice.
agree with that.
To quote Vin Diesel from most of the Fast Furious movies, "You know, I don't have friends anymore. We're family." That's a really bad Vin Diesel impression. Don't take that to heart, folks.
And to quote Vin Diesel from the Walt Disney original film The Pacifier, was there something about the hippity hop dance? Was that
the
movie?
Peter Panda dance. You hop
Yeah, there
to
you
the
go.
left. And
Oh, God.
Yeah. Do the Peter Panda dance.
Steven must have seen the anime version of that film. As Jeff starts to leave, Pierce stops him and calls him son and gives him a hug. It's a little cute and wholesome, except Pierce just continues to hug him and they start swaying back and forth. Jeff says, you know, are we hugging or dancing? And Pierce doesn't skip a beat. He's like, you know, if the roles were reversed, I would have had sex with your ex-stepdaughter. And Jeff says, I did.
Attaboy, sport.
And he pats him on the shoulder and says, chip off the old block. It was either that or deal with your actual pain. And they bond for a second over, I don't know, some of the similarities of being a man, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Just guy stuff.
It's about as wholesome as you're going to get a scene between characters like Jeff and Pierce.
That's fair.
And if anything, I think this moment between the two of them at the end of this episode works better for me than like the moment they had at the end of the STD Fair episode.
I agree 100%.
The rest of the episode doesn't work as well for me, but this is a earned moment between the two of them.
Agreed.
Jeff starts crying.
Yeah, because he looks over at Slater and she's like
About Slater.
poorly dancing with some schmuck.
Yeah, and cries about, we always used to watch the shows she wanted to watch. I hate Glee. And the episode literally ends with them trashing Glee. I like he's crying now too. He's like, you know, I'm not that crazy about Glee either. It's like, I don't get the appeal. I don't understand it at all. And that's how the episode ends. I like that joke, but it is a weird way to end the episode.
It really is a weird
on.
way to end an episode. Because normally they make like those kind of fourth wall breaking jokes a little more early in the episode when it's like, hey, we're setting up, this is the open, yeah, Glee sucks, you know?
It usually ends with like a nice, like, you know, like a melodic chord in the score that's bright and sunny as like everyone hugs or something like that. And this one just kind of ended, fizzled out a little bit. Now we get the end gag, which I think is very funny. Now Troy and Abed are stuck in the vending machine. I bet Abed saw those kids in it and were like, I bet we could do this.
Yeah.
Which I think is very funny. Not a lot to say here. We unpacked a lot of it about the buttons. You know, they're stuck. And what's Abed's plan?
His plan was to have Troy press G14 because there's already money in the machine. And then it would use the little swirly spring guy, the corkscrew, to push the phone out of Troy's pocket into the receptacle where he could grab it and call for help.
Very good. And he presses the wrong button. So it just sticks the spiral thing, you know, that lets the snacks out up Troy's butt. And he makes some interesting faces as he's coming to terms with what's happening to him. You know, feelings of confusion and maybe pain and maybe pleasure.
A little bit of bliss.
And that's pretty much it.
And that's our show, folks.
How do you think they got out?
I think somebody probably came along eventually. I don't think that
Do you think someone came along with a key, or do you think someone came along and they were like, press G14?
I think that they probably asked them to press G14, knowing Troy and Abed. Yep.
Yeah, so that's the end of an episode. A little bit middle ground, but I have enjoyed going through it with you and conversing with you and doing this show for all of our fine people. Who is your MVP this week?
Well, I want to hear your take first on this because I finally landed on one a little while ago, but I'm curious to see where you went with this.
I did too. I had almost no thought on the matter until a few minutes ago. Not a lot of people earn it this episode.
No.
And I've changed my mind a couple of times. I think I'm going to give it to... Oh, and I'm changing my mind, like, even as I'm saying between two people. I'm going to just say, I'm going to give it to Britta.
Nice.
I think Britta's commitment to their storyline and the way Gillian pulled it off is very funny. One of the character's classic moments. I think she even steals the scene from Troy a little bit, even though Troy is often the funniest person in the group.
Yeah.
I almost gave it to Jeff because Jeff acts nicely in this episode, but I don't think he exactly earned it. And Britta kind of gets it by default, but she's one of the characters in this episode that made me laugh and smile the most. And the last couple episodes, I've really been enjoying the character of Britta's growth.
I am surprised that you said Britta. I did not see that coming.
I was about to say Jeff. I changed.
See, I thought you were going to go with Jeff. My top choices for most of this were between Britta, Shirley, and Abed for me. I feel like Abed had like some of my favorite moments, and I liked his part in the storyline, but like you said, he didn't really do anything to earn MVP this week. He just wasn't bad. And so it was between Shirley and Britta for me, and I was leaning Shirley, but I think because of some of the jokes that
some
Shirley
of the comments in the
makes
beginning
on,
of the episode.
Yep. Then it goes to Britta for me. And I think Britta does a great job in the episode, even though she's kind of playing on that, cultural ignorance, thing. But she does it out of good heart, and she ate them whoopings. So I got to give her mad props for that, because she was dealing with that for a long time. That was a lot of whippings with that, and with the pants down.
There were a lot.
That's
swift,
a lot.
hard.
That leaves marks. So she's in for it. So
Britta
props to
took
her.
a beating like a champ, so she's the MVP.
Yep.
Accordingly. And that about wraps up things for this week. Steven, is there anything you have left that you'd like to say to the people who hang out with us every week?
Yeah. I really appreciate you bringing us into your hearts and homes and minds, and just remember to, if this episode teaches you anything, it's, love those around you. Love those.
Good call. So yeah, this ends things up for the week. Thank you for spending time with us. I, as always, am one of your two gracious hosts, a smiling sideways vagina.
And I don't understand you. I don't understand you at all. But I'm Steven. And don't forget, guys, make sure to write in with some trivia questions and your favorite moment of next week's episode. Next week is pottery, right?
Yeah, beginner pottery. Write in with your unanswered trivia questions and the moment that made you laugh the most. We'll look forward to hearing it.
Don't forget,
as always. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't forget to like us on Facebook at You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at You Can't Dis a Pod. And on Instagram, I believe we are Can't Disappoint Podcast.
We sure are. And as always, from inside the Dreamatorium, Black Lives Matter. Be considerate and open to those with ways different than your own. And Steven, go grab a Switch.
Hey, yo!
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Always on my mind. We do this to ourselves.